First item is call to order, roll call.
Tessie are here. Howard, present.
Driscoll here. Also with us tonight, we have Vanessa Price, town planner, and Josh from our town engineer. Review and approval of the minutes from March 5th, 2024. Any questions, comments, changes?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Tessie, aye.
All right. Driscoll, aye. Next item of business is planners updates.
Just have a few things. If anybody's interested in attending the spring 2024 planning and zoning conference, it's all online. It's free to attend. And if you can't make it that day, because it is a Saturday, they do record it, and it can be found later on the OPD's website, which is the Office of Planning and Development's website for the state. That's something to know. As we enter into April, think about if you want to run for chair or vice chair. I've already kind of talked to the existing chair and vice chair. I think they would like to continue. Ron said he was a little bit indifferent, but if there's anybody else that would like to or want to be nominated, we can discuss that at the next meeting or think about it. Bob? Nope. Okay.
All right.
It's more of a procedural thing, I guess. And also, I just wanted to point out, so when we discuss a little bit later about the technical review group that will be implementing, to talk about on the major and minor or major site plan and major subdivision reviews. Talked a little bit with the chair, and I've talked with our engineer about it. We recommend that, actually I should back up a little bit. The engineers have come to us too that they would like to see if the engineer could review it ahead of time, the plans ahead of time during this review group. And we were thinking about having all major applications to be reviewed by the town engineer for more of regulation review at that point. There's been some, like, well, we have to wait for it to hear back from them. It might be a more streamlined process. And we can talk about that as we go through the technical review group procedure, but I just wanted to make mention of that now before we get into.
The question I have on that is, now when they file an application, they pay for the engineer.
Yes.
If the application gets pulled, let's say Josh does a review, and the application gets pulled, town pay for that time?
No. So as part of the process, those fees would have to be paid ahead of time.
Okay.
So when they submit their application, all fees are due at that time. So it'd be, if we put in our procedure that we require that, right now we have it as optional, because the town attorney's like, well, I don't know if you want to force anybody to do it. You could do it as optional, or if there's other ways you want to do it. And we're thinking like the major ones always seem to turn to the town engineer to help streamline the process for the applicant. But those fees would be charged up front. They don't get those fees back.
And how will we determine what the fees would be?
So we have it in the fee structure in our rules of regulation we're also going to go over tonight. I talked with Josh about, he could maybe elaborate a little bit more on the cost if you want during that, but it's time for him to review it and be present at the technical review group meetings as well to go over those comments. And so it's a flat fee. So unfortunately, I guess for Josh, if he goes over his amount, we can't charge more. But if there's also subsequent reviews, we came up with a figure, like, well, I don't want to go to the board yet. I want to answer these questions. They want to come back to the technical review group. Josh has also put in like a fee for what that would be, which would be less, but all that fee would be provided up front. Now, on the minor applications, if they still want the town attorney, they would be the optional of the applicant decide they want to do the review. They would have to pay that ahead of time too. But that it wouldn't be necessarily required at that point. So they could come in with the minor ones and still come to the board, and the board still may say, I mean, this doesn't alleviate you from anything saying, no, we still want the town attorney or town engineer to review it.
Or,
So.
the other question I have is there a planning board member on the technical review?
There is not currently. For I looked at several different models on how to do it. I modeled it a little bit after talking to different communities, like Rochester, for example, is a less formal one. Since we haven't done this before, they advertise it, but it's not like a public is always welcome to attend, but it's not publicly noticed and meeting minutes aren't drawn and that sort of thing. So it's not as formal. I think when having a planning board member or members, it's more of a formal action that has to go.
One planning board member wouldn't be.
Correct. I can get clarification. If you're online, if you could please mute yourself. Thank you.
I'm just wondering
Planning board
whether,
member.
On it. And I can get clarification from her. Initially, we were just thinking it more so with how we're doing plan review right now, which is just within the department heads, and it's come to our attention on something, usually the larger projects that applicants have asked for, be better if they were all in a room. They used to kind of do that informally, kind of got on the wayside and went to email. So we're just trying to be something more formal. We can definitely put it in here as the draft, and if the town attorney says, no, you have to do it this way, then we can just come back and discuss it and do it that way. I think it'd be helpful to have a planning board member, but.
I think so. I mean, I guess it's time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lean upon the staff recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the meetings will have a lot of context that maybe. And maybe
It
the
could be.
planning board might have a view that they might want. I think it'd be helpful.
Okay.
It's an investment of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm asking the rest of the board, what do they think? First question is, anybody?
Well, I already mentioned,
I know,
I
didn't
would,
even
I
hear.
would go as a guest.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we just formalize it and say the chairman goes?
As a guest.
Well, because I'm not sure if he wants to make comments or not. I don't know. That's
I
what
will
kind of
leave all my regalia at home. Like one of those
Well, if he's a
English
guest, can he come, can he?
mayors.
participate
He
in the
probably
meeting?
can't speak if he's a guest.
If you're a guest, you
Right.
might be able to participate.
right.
No, I won't be able to, but I can report on what it.
But I think you should be able to ask questions and get.
I agree. I was
Okay.
kind of surprised that a member wasn't, the chair was not.
Well, if you're willing to go, I think we formalize.
I can look into it, and make sure. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if it
don't
was
care.
just
We have a new
because.
chair that doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure because it wouldn't be. I mean, because it
Well,
wouldn't
I think
be.
I'm stuck apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently you're stuck, yeah.
And it wouldn't be.
You gotta volunteer, Johnny, so you're planning on going.
You're already planning on going. How about this? How about I look into it? We'll put it in the procedure when we get to that section and put it in there. And if the attorney says you have to do this
Try to
instead,
sneak it in.
well, no, it's not sneaking. You'd be as a member.
As a formal member,
okay.
I think a formal
Sure.
member would be better.
And at these meetings as well, even though there's not meeting minutes per se being taken like they do for these types of meetings, I will be taking notes on it. And then every department head, if the engineer's there, also like writing down notes or giving it ahead of time to the meeting as well. So it's not like there's not going to be nothing, but I think it's just trying to be a more collaborative effort with the town and helping the applicants out. Mostly on the larger projects, but we were
Yeah,
looking at
mostly.
all projects to go through, so everybody's treated the same.
That's good, isn't it?
Looks like the first meeting scheduled for May 2nd, so.
A little bit.
If it evolves
Yeah.
correctly. Right.
So, but excellent questions. And
Any more questions on? Oh.
No,
we don't have public comment
Public
during.
comment on this.
This is just a work session. In regards to something that's on the agenda?
So, right now for every application that comes through the land use department, the applicant's application and plans, associated documents all get forwarded electronically to the department heads of the town. So it's like fire, police, etc. It does not include the town engineer at that point. So it's just get everyone's point of view. And so I think it's getting lost a little bit in translation when it's just over email. And some applicants have come in, especially for larger projects, because typically how we've gone is the engineer comes in later. So that it's more like, can we have the engineer up front to look at things and give us comments to help with the process for applications. So there's no additional cost for this. The applicant is also to be present at the meetings for their project. And that's just to get review from the departments. Because a lot of times we're like, well, you need to go talk to the fire chief to get more clarification on something, or it's usually our biggest one, or the road agent, get clarification there. So that way we're all together to help streamline the process and not be so frustrating for the applicant, as well as during the process of reviewing plans, because we already have this in place. This is just making it a little bit more formal.
So to help guide the applicant through streamline it.
Yes.
So just to clarify,
Yes.
the person that developed.
Right. Yeah, you have that, because we already.
Departments there they can engage in across.
And I think it's
Contact.
better if we're all there too. If they're like, well, I don't understand what the fire chief is saying, or a road agent saying, or the planner saying.
That would have helped a lot with the Coot Farm when the developer missed the communication from fire, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't seen that for like 2 months.
Mhm.
He missed that.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
So I think that just helps streamline for everybody. So it'd be, like I said, except for preliminary conceptuals, I guess that would say that would be the only one that's not required to come through, because those aren't currently required to have a department review. And that's just somebody coming to the board to discuss their project. Mhm.
All open to the public.
So-
Our meeting's open to the public.
Yeah, so it's,
You
yes.
can't engage anybody, but you can listen, right?
Right, so I'm proposing, we're gonna get a little bit later about the details, but if it works out well, because this is kind of a learning process for us, the first Thursday of every month would be like, if an application comes through and they paid their fees and everything like that, it would be to discuss that. I would anticipate the public could absolutely attend. It just is not, you can't give public comment or anything at that point, because that hasn't gone before the public hearing. At that point, it's just reviewing the current submittal of the project. Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, good. Okay, next, item 5, other business that may properly come before the board. Item number A, letter A, subdivision regulations, which we are going through.
So, just to mention to the board, so, as you know, I've been working a lot with the town engineer, to update a lot of, I wouldn't hate to say like minimal things, but things that haven't been caught before, or like going through recent, applications that we noticed that, we would like updated sooner rather than later, because now there may be other comments from the board about updating our regulations, but, so I only printed out the pages that we're intending to change, and to not like try to go outside of that, unless you have any minimal comments for like John gave me a couple that was just about how we do our process.
Some of the wording.
But other than that, we would like to focus tonight, for the sake of time, just to go over.
So I had a
Packet.
question
Yeah.
about a regulation, but it's not on this list. Is
Okay.
there an opportunity to talk about that?
We can, and definitely we can look into the future. So the purpose of tonight, I anticipate, is to get this adopted for our next meeting, unless you feel like you want to wait and add whatever regulation that you have questions on. If you feel like it would pertain to help this effort. or if you wanted to look at it further, we can do, I mean, this can be updated monthly if you wanted to, for example, but yeah, we can discuss that if you want after we go through, the ones that are commented here. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess, I'll hand it back over to you, Mr. Chair, unless you want me to, I don't know.
Anybody else have any
I
questions?
I have one quick one
Mhm.
for kind of technical. I'm glad you're here, Josh. Article 13, it talks about.
So are you going off of the subject? I'm just asking, I don't know if it's in here.
No, it's
Okay,
not in there.
okay.
13.2 parentheses 1, it references a handbook that I couldn't find in a Google search. I want to make sure it's still current. And it's.
That would be a good call.
Would you say the number again, Ron?
13.2 parentheses 1. It says specification set forth in the erosion and sedimentation control design handbook for developing areas in New Hampshire, as amended by the Stratford County Conservation District. And I couldn't.
Those must be in the old one.
Yeah,
But the new one's in
Hear that the last
I gotta get it.
What version are you on?
Yeah, what's it say at the bottom?
Over version?
Oh, yeah, what does it say?
Top, right.
Top or bottom?
Should say this, August XX 2023. Right up there.
I have not XX.
So use the ones you got tonight.
So you already
Looking
fixed,
at this
you already fixed this? You already fixed this one?
This is what it says now. It's just parentheses 1, was it?
Yeah.
13.1.
Another reason I gotta get an updated version. That's good.
So I
I
can answer
told
that
you
for
he'd
you.
notice if we didn't give him one.
I gotta get an updated book.
Any more questions on the?
So if you, just
Oh,
for the
okay.
board members in general, and obviously there's two that are not here tonight, but if you're not, don't attend one of the meetings that you missed, we'll try to remind you that we have extra copies, so it may just have been, you might not have been at the meeting when we dispersed them, because that's usually when we give them out.
I think I was probably.
Maybe.
Could be.
I'm not saying probably, maybe. Okay, I guess we can just start at the beginning on page 2. At the bottom, you'll notice that there's so everything in red is new language, and everything crossed out was either existing, or maybe Josh and I have gone back and forth just throughout the document. So beginning on the, so I'm going to go by the page numbers that are on the bottom of the document, even though, like, you know, this is page 2 actually, but it could be different pages further on. But are there any questions about adding the subdivision types, which on page 2 and 3, and also page 3 talks about the voluntary lot merger, which we had put in the rules of procedure since we didn't have that before, but the town attorney has advised it'd be better in the subdivision regulations. So it's taking it out of the rules of regulation or rules of procedure that we have currently now and putting it in here. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that, either one of those, or any of that, I guess I should say? Okay. Moving along, page 4. We talked doing like a subdivision review and approval process. Just talking about like an initial inquiry. We already practiced this in our office, but sometimes trying to point applicants to it in our regulations helps. So we wanted to add that section here. Is there any questions or comments on that one? Okay. It's pretty much the same. So if you read on page 5, just kind of like a procedure, we didn't really have it labeled out like what our procedure is. In the site plan review regulations, it's pretty well spelled out, but in here it doesn't, and talked about like specific studies, the review of the application procedure. Does anybody have questions on that? If I'm going too fast, let me know too. Okay. These ones are all pretty straightforward. There might be more questions
So
further in.
262 parentheses 1, the pre-application reviews, that would, you don't have to say that's the conceptual and design review. It's just, those would be the two.
Yeah, we can.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay. But yeah, that's what the preliminary
Yeah,
ones are. Yeah.
It's not like this is gonna be a bestseller out in Barrington.
Oh, man. I know. We do sell them for $15 a copy if anybody.
But we'll give you a discount.
Hey, I know. Okay, so going down to page 6, it just talks about if we need professional legal services, the applicant was responsible for those costs. Public hearing just added an update that that our schedules in our office as well as online. We didn't have that posted before. John just put in 2.5.1, which I will probably send a Josh. So Josh is also taking notes on the corrections. I'll send you corrections for that because it was just on the timing. I talked about there was just some language change that I need to like look at.
Yeah.
Talking about subdivisions require 2 meetings. We don't always require 2 meetings for subdivisions, you know, and like it can be done in, because people ask about, well, how long will it take my subdivision to get approved? And it says 6 months. And we know a lot of projects can take longer, not a lot, but like a major subdivision would take probably longer than 6 months. I would safely
it's
say.
like
So we
down
just
the
didn't
road.
want to like make any false promises.
Right.
Lack of a better word, you know what I mean? So we're just taking that out, and I'll get that to you for that one. Let me just circle it. Okay. Moving on, if you look at page 8, once again, or not once again, but this talks a little bit more about the formal application submission and procedures. A lot of this is mirroring what our site plan review regulations kind of say for their application process too. I felt like it would be helpful to have it in here as well. Any questions?
A quick question.
Yeah.
It says here that the application has to be in 21 days prior to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff in particular, you know, he wanted language to be in there for updates and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
To have a date, they had to be supplied too. Is that anywhere?
It is in our subdivision regulations. I'd have to look at where it is, but it doesn't hurt if you want to also include it here. I think we have it as 10 working days, so we ended up going like 15 calendar days, I think. So that way, because since we're not open on the Fridays, we wanted to make sure that that gets counted.
I think it'd be
So
good
it is in here at another,
I think it'd be good to mirror it here.
and I don't think doesn't hurt to put it more than one place too. So, okay, let's see. So, put that. As you can tell, I actually probably paste that, put site plan approval. Okay, I'll make sure it's included in here. I'll just add an extra spot. Add recent middle. Oops. Everybody good with everything else on that page? Okay. Page 9, goes on a little bit more about escrow fees for the town engineer reviews, submittal dates, acceptance process, etc. Any questions on page 9? Going on page 11. So as you see here, we had a technical review by department heads, which is 4.3.1, and we're going to actually make that its own new section. So that's not going to be right there. Then you go down to public hearing and notice. Well, that's just like a renumbering that Josh had suggested. I'm guessing that's what that comment was, right? Okay. So we'll renumber that. Any questions on that? Okay. page 12. So, we added a statement that any abutter person showing a direct interest in the matter may testify in person or in writing. And Josh and I had a little discussion at that. I know that the board had previously mentioned that they would want that a little bit more clear in our regulations.
Yep.
Through other applications. I don't necessarily know if it's needed because it's almost always implied, but it doesn't hurt to put it in. So are you guys okay with?
I think it's fine, being
Okay.
in.
And then the next portion, which is 4.3.2, is a new section, and this reviews the technical review group. We refer to as TRG. So it's a little bit, not a little bit, but you'll see there's probably a lot of revisions in here. This is just like the overall procedure for it. And I was going to add in section 4.3.2, parentheses 1, talking about that procedure to like refer to the procedure for TRG. That outlines who the members are, meeting dates, etc. And that it's no cost to the applicant. On the 4.3.2, parentheses 2, that's also, I'll have to put a planning board member or chair as a member.
Okay.
Any questions on that portion? Sorry if I'm going too fast. We both looked at it so much like it's, we're good with it, but.
And the space is a little.
I know, I think after we do since it's track changes,
We'll fix the formatting stuff.
the formatting will be fixed after we hit yes to all these and then look at the formatting.
Just had a
Yeah.
comment there. Did you want
On
to
page,
discuss
so
that?
we're on page 13 now. Let's see. This is something that we brought up before about the technical review group that we're looking at all applications. And I think it sounded like the consensus was, yes, we should have a technical review group for all applications. So I think we've addressed that comment between town engineer and I.
And this is where you would put a planning board representative.
Yes.
4.3.
Yes, I would add it actually to one of the other sections too, where it talks about who it is, like the police chief, fire chief, code enforcement officer, highway department, conservation commission, town engineer, and then I put planning board chair.
I would say designated planning board.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's fine.
That's true, because what
Maybe
if
the
you're
future
not
chair
here?
doesn't wanna do it.
Oh, that's true.
Chair or designated member.
If I say chair and I don't show up,
Chair or designated member.
Yeah.
So you can have an alternate.
Or designee, okay.
whatever.
So if the chair can't attend, you can have.
That kind of locks John into going.
Well, John already volunteered to go.
You got what I was saying. So a little self-serving.
Well, I'm retired. You people work for a living. so-
Okay, no more comments on that page. Go to page 19. So, the fire chief has asked on all of our, or try to make sure that we capture all of our notice of decisions about street signage and asked if it could be put in our regulations somewhere. We were trying to find the most appropriate place. It seems like this seemed to be an appropriate place unless the board feels like there's somewhere else to put that.
There is a section in the regulations, I forget where it was, subdivision regulations about fire protection.
Right.
Which pretty much says that we believe in fire protection, but we don't really have much to do with setting rules.
Yeah, so that it's up to the fire chief.
Yeah.
We looked at that a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and the fire chief wanted to keep it kind of vague, I hate to say, because a new fire chief may have different
Sure.
things.
Well, the state fire marshal usually
Right, and so like they
with
defer
the
to them
road
too.
and height of trees.
Mhm.
And so forth.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we could, it's always worth a look again that we can put on future look if he still wants.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Leave it here. That's good.
okay. So I think this might be a more bigger discussion, but page 37 talks about conservation subdivisions. So, going through this, it talks about, a lot of it is verbatim from the zoning ordinance initially, because we felt it was, when this article was developed, that it would be better to be in more places. So, I think it's important to keep it there, but Josh had brought up, like, it's verbatim, she would just refer, and so I guess I would refer to the board, but I think it's, if it's repetitive, does it,
I think it's fine to be in
Fine.
here.
okay.
I actually like it better in both.
I do
Okay.
too.
I don't like people bouncing back and forth, this says something here, but says something different over. As long as it's, it matches.
Right, they're
What do
trying to
you
keep
Yeah,
it.
back when I made that comment, I thought the zoning board, speaking to a particular project, trumped the planning board. So if that's the case, and this were accomplished anything, but based on the last meeting we had, the planning board still has their own separate process, right? Separate from the zoning board.
Well, the zoning and the subdivision. Zoning is ZBA, obviously, has final say, ultimate say on that.
Yep.
But subdivision is our turf.
Okay, sounds like we're good on that. Page 38. This is the same kind of comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Application procedures. I can get a town attorney's opinion on that, or if the board wants to keep it as is, or if there's any questions, those comments. The purple is Josh, and then I'm better pink.
Can I just go back and ask a quick
Oh, yeah,
question?
sorry.
When we put it in two different places, is there a way for you to track that so that if it gets changed in one section, we know to change it in the other?
I try my best to put it that way.
Okay, all
So, like, for example, for this one, it's like in accordance with Article 6 of the town zoning ordinance. So the zoning ordinance trumps everything, really. So, like, if for some reason it doesn't get captured in here, you still have to adhere what the zoning ordinance says. So you're correct, but that's more of like staff trying to make sure that we track those changes for it.
Okay, I guess that's my only fear. Like you said, you like having it duplicate. My only fear with duplicate is if one gets changed, the
other
other
one does
doesn't.
not.
And
Or
all
if
of a
you're
sudden you
working
get
from a
somebody going,
different-
oh, no, I'm going by this standard.
Yeah.
And we've
Luckily,
changed.
right at page 1 of zoning, it always is the most stringent thing,
Yep.
even if there's any confusion or anything. I'm sorry.
It's not going to pick you up. It does not pick you up, I
It's
promise
up to
you.
the people, not me.
Okay,
That's the line.
so, any thoughts on that part? Just you okay
No,
with leaving it?
It's
as
fine.
is? Okay.
I'd leave it again.
Okay. So, stop me if, once again, if I'm going too fast, page 46. So actually, this actually references what Bob said, because I highlighted it to remember to change that. The no portion of a lot created on regulation should be less than 75 feet in width, except as provided in 11.2. So I highlighted that because of this is before the town vote went through. So I highlighted that we could either leave that in and just take out as provided in 11.2.4, because in 11.2.4 refers to the backlots in the 75 feet.
75 used to be 50, right?
Mm-hmm. So before, but under lot shape, it had 75 feet.
Yeah, well,
So, I don't know if anything changes with that. I mean, I cut off with the creation of backlots because the backlots now match
Oh,
that.
You're suggesting we take it out?
Either take it out or take out, like if you're looking, it says creation of backlots, because it's the old, I would say the old regulations had it 50, whereas like no portion of lot should be less than 75 feet in width.
Well, I think that,
So I don't know if we should take it out or if just leaving it
I
still
think for
suffices.
For backlots, that's the neck.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I think the neck is different from
the lot shape.
yeah,
Okay,
to me.
okay.
And, I think 75 feet, you have a 3-to-1 ratio anyway. So that if you apply that, you can't be less than 80 feet anyway, even with a subdivision.
Hmm.
If it's 20,000 square feet, I mean, you get 3-to-1 ratio, gotta be at least 80 feet to get to meet. So I think that 75 feet is okay.
Should we increase it to 80?
No, I
Is that what you're
wouldn't, but I
saying?
think
Okay,
if you apply 80, it's higher. It's higher if you do the non-conservation. If it's the regular one, then you get a 200.
mm-hmm.
So, because what's it, 1,000 something, right? It's 80.
20,000
So
square.
you apply the 3-to-1 to
Oh, right, yeah.
it's wider still. So I think that's fine. I mean, I think it was in there already, basically, if you apply.
Mm-hmm.
But having a minimum of 75 feet, I think most people aren't gonna do the math. They can do a while.
Right,
Leaving in there 75 feet.
okay. And then, do you want to keep the wording as that? I mean, I struck out the creation of backlots since now the backlots is 75 feet, or do you want that kept in too?
Well, this is generally under lot shape,
Right.
so we should cover both.
Okay, so keep this in
Keep
there.
it
Okay.
as it is, yeah.
So now, moving on to lot layout standards. There is discussion if we should move this, if it makes more sense to be in like the traffic study section. And if, let's see, land for. In 11.2.3 parentheses 2, if, do you want to keep that in? Is it serving us a purpose at this time?
I still think you want to go on a class 5 road.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm at 11.2.3. Where are you at?
We're 3, 1, and 2.
We're at lot layout standard.
We're at lot layout standards.
Oh.
Purple, right
Okay.
above it. Sorry.
I'll withhold those.
Okay.
With the first. Equal to that. Put over
Done with that one?
Well, I think we're just saying, do you, since these are comments from Josh.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you want to move 11.2.3 parentheses 1 to the traffic study section. Do you agree with that comment? Since it makes more, because it's like,
Yeah,
it
it
makes
seems
more
to me it
sense.
makes more
Because we
sense.
used to not, our section wasn't as beefed up and previously before this part was looked at, and then he helped us make a better section. So it sounds like yes. We're okay. Okay,
3,
so
1,
move
yeah,
that.
for 3, 1.
And then 11.2.3, we're proposing to essentially strike that and take it out in its entirety.
Mostly reference to the site plan.
Mm-hmm. This shouldn't be subdivisions, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's multifamily.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's subdivision anyway.
Okay, the next section, I know you'll be waiting for, backlots. A lot's been going on with this, as you know. So I'll just say what we talked about, and then I'll turn it over to the board. So, the two pieces in red, the 11.24 parentheses 1. The parcel must have at least 75 feet of frontage on existing class 5 road or better. That was from the zoning that got adopted, as well as 11.2.4, how it's numbered in here, parentheses 4. The back lots, and we can make this make more sense here. I know John had a comment about it when we met
Yeah, if
earlier
you
to go
read,
over it.
if everybody reads 11.2.4 parentheses 4, just read that. Is that
So that's what was,
confusing at all?
it was proposed
That was
for the
a-
zoning for that, so that's how the zoning is
That's
gonna
how
be changed.
zoning reads right now.
However, in the subdivision regulations, you can have it a little bit
Yeah.
explained a little bit better.
Explaining it like in the, how it was approved for the, approved when we approved zoning. They said that increase required frontage for 75 feet. But it also says that you cannot have, it prohibits backlots in subdivisions consisting of 10 lots or more. Well, you read this language, existing thing, it does mention 10 lots, but quickly reading that, does it say they're absolutely forbidden?
I'm gonna make sure that
It
we get
just
the
seems
intent
a
from
little
the zoning
ambiguous
change.
to me.
Yeah.
This allows you two, our new change was no backlots.
No, it's
No.
10.
For
Well, no,
Under
subdivisions
10,
of 10.
under 2 for under 10 lots.
So then it should say lots of 10 or more created after
Yeah.
March 12th.
Um,
Correct, right?
Yeah.
Cannot be in lots 10
10 or more.
Forbidden, right. Whatever language.
Oh, I was hoping you guys would.
And did you think,
You're the wordsmith, come on.
I think saying
Gosh, really
lots
get
of
words
10
in.
or more
Okay.
is helpful there.
I did have a quote, oh, let's finish up before I.
So if we're okay with that, I can work with Josh and maybe some language for that. But to go back up to the section that it's highlighted in purple, so like, for example, 11 point, this is all the existing in the regulations now, 2 backlot maximum per subdivision. We propose to strike it out. I could have him comment on that, but did you guys want to keep that in,
well-
or it probably satisfies it with the new zoning?
Yeah, or like somebody suggested, can't hurt to be in places. Somebody goes to the subdivision regulations if they want subdivision, not even look at
So if you
it,
do
unfortunately.
if you do the 2 backlot maximum per subdivision, I mean, maybe you can explain it better than me. I don't know.
But then referring down below, unless you have 10 or more.
Yeah, so as we
Okay.
were talking, I rewrote backlot map.
That's good.
Well, that's clear.
See,
That clears
I
it really.
refer to good editing skills. Okay. And then the minimum frontage of,
Instead of 75.
yeah, is now 75 feet.
Now, the frontage, if you remember some discussions that an applicant had to the conservation subdivisions, does not say frontage on the street. It
Right.
says at the front building setback is the width of 75. And one of the applicants has used that to justify certain liberties they've taken. 'Cause it-
So are you suggesting maybe doing a change?
Well, no, I would just
There.
add, or
Oh.
in conservation subdivisions, it is the front building setback is what we're,
For in the zoning?
the 75 feet, just to cover future
Right,
attempts to
okay,
stretch the rules.
okay. Say that one more time?
Yeah, you want to bet?
Do you mind saying that one more time?
Yeah, let me find where, we're currently 11.24%.
Like, you want it to be like a new?
After class,
a new
no,
thing?
no, I
Okay.
can think you can just add it on that line.
Okay.
Class 5 or better road.
Okay,
And in conservation subdivisions, the it is not the frontage on the road, but at the front building setback. Or you could just
Not-
put, or at the front, you can use that as an option.
Wait, not-
Frontage on the road or frontage on the building setback, which can vary depending on. If it's Young Road, they need 100 feet, but
okay.
if it's on private roads,
Yeah.
it's 20 feet.
It's like we're not allowed backlots on them.
Not private, I mean
I get what
lot
he's
that
saying.
is not
I get what he's
accepted
saying.
by the town, built as class 5, like Winkley, not Winkley, Malago.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna.
I think I got that. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to get it to the simplest language.
I know, and to make, yeah. Okay. I wrote
Um,
notes, I'll confer with him. And then,
Or you can put 75 feet of frontage on the class 5 road, or 75 feet from the setback line.
front,
Taking it
Setback.
right from our dimensional standards for subdivisions.
I like, okay, page 25, okay. I'll look at that.
Lot width at the front building setback, 75
Okay.
feet. How's that
That's
sound?
good. Good, that way it's
Covers any future
things,
things
cases.
without using names.
And then the next one was the 50% of the neck shall be part of each backlot.
Why are we eliminating that?
It just says highlight.
We gotta fix the 25 feet.
Well, it was striked out. I think, I don't know if you had a comment on it, like why you strike out, but
Well, it's just because
I think it was because of
we're
the zoning
typically
change.
in the zoning.
It's, yeah, and it's also in the zoning ordinance. Do you want it, it sounds like we want it here as well.
Yeah,
Hold on,
yeah, some of the zoning,
we can take out the 25 feet.
Yeah,
The IE, I think, has caused problems in the past.
Yep.
Just say 50%, leave it at that.
yep, okay. And then, well, maybe similar language, or like, I'm sorry, Josh proposed additional, or language too, like the neck. If you look for 11.2.4 parentheses 2 and 3, added that language, to further describe. Do you have any comments on that, or you guys like that?
Doesn't the new language say that? Talking about where.
Or it might be existing, I'm sorry, I could say so, similar language, but I think it said better here.
Think backlots.
The neck area, oh, I think that's why you were thinking about scratching out the 50%, because the neck area cannot be used in the minimum lot size calculation,
No,
except
we
for
want both.
on both, okay,
Because
Okay.
50% means ownership is shared.
Yeah.
Because you always put the road down the middle, you wanna have both people have
equal,
ownership of the
okay.
road.
So keep
So I
that,
think that, and then
and then the,
not counting the square footage, that should be in there as well. Also, it's different, but also that should be in.
okay. And then the backlot shall be deeded as unsubdividable unless additional lots conform to town zoning subdivision standards.
Yeah, I mean, I think the new language says that, I think, but I'm okay leaving it in.
Okay. And then there's a section proposing removal.
I think that.
Yeah.
One.
Everybody get that? Okay. Moving on then, page 40. Oh, no, I went, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Did I get my pages mixed up? I think I did.
That's
I'm
it, right?
sorry about that.
That's it.
46,
Yep.
56.
Just on 69,
We
you
got
have some.
246s.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. I was like, wait a minute, what's happening? Printer error, I apologize.
Paying attention.
So I was like, wait a minute, how did that, okay. Anyhow, page 60, there's just a note about the minimum center line offset from adjacent intersection. We
Yeah, I
wanna,
think that one,
Everything's
can be deleted because on 3 I think 200 feet was the old standard, and then we added in the 3 below.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how that happened. Kind of like minimum curb radius above, and then classification.
Yep. Uh,
Moving
69.
along to page 69, this addresses AOT and helps clarify when it's required.
Yeah.
We really didn't have, or both Josh and I felt like it wasn't really in the regulations said when it was needed, so we added that. Actually, I should say Josh added. Any questions or issues with that?
That's not, I mean, there's other requirements in AOT that, like 2,500 feet if it's like slope with a steep slope. So there's other requirements that trigger AOT.
Well, he mentions, one of them mentions within 25 feet of a body of water. It also uses it.
2,500 square feet if you steep slope. Those other things that trigger an AOT other than just.
Yeah, if you look at their application, if you go to the DES site that handles
Yeah,
this,
this
it
is not
says
the
one
only thing
thing,
that triggers AOT. There's other things that trigger.
and then the application doesn't have as much information for the applicants.
So like,
I look
sounds
at
like
the
an add
RSA
more.
Yeah.
It's steep slope is 2,500. 2,500.
And then maybe like
A
add
lot.
more.
So that
Yeah,
should
I'll
be-
double check that.
Okay.
that should just reflect what the.
And he might have just, yeah, he's checked the RS, he'll check the RSA
Something
for
we
it.
should look at in our future 20 foot slopes.
Need a breaking zone right
Oh,
now.
Gee, this is
Congratulations on all the, all the. No, you're right.
Most towns is.
It's right. Keep notes for me.
25%.
And
Okay.
we'll,
Yeah, I think we'll
Keep
fold it at home.
a folder. Oh, no.
Folder already.
Okay. Page, oh, so we're good with that page. Okay. Moving on to page 77. There's just more of performance and maintenance guarantee. We had our council look at it and make sure it was current due to the RSA change from last year, or even a little bit before, I think, during last year. And then some additional grammatical things. Any
Okay.
questions or issues with any of that?
You don't get involved.
As long as the
Yeah.
attorney's good with it, we're good with it.
Well, yeah, we're good with it. We're trying to make it better for us too.
Just get the cash, that's all. I
Yeah.
I just
oh,
had
go
something
ahead.
else with
Yep.
the AOT.
Yep.
Some applicants, I'm not sure if it's in Barrington this happens, but sometimes the applicant will ask the planning board not to have us review stuff that'd be covered by the AOT review process. And I'm not sure if that happens here. I forget honestly, but I know in other towns, sometimes the applicant will. AOT's gonna review this anyways. We don't want you guys reviewing this. Do you guys have a preference?
I think
Should we review everything or?
would think so, yeah, I think just.
I
to
personally think we
protect.
should be because we
I do, yeah,
a thorough review and sometimes we catch stuff that AOT doesn't catch.
despite there might be some pushback
There
by
is just
certain
pushback
people,
and there is
the
overlap.
board will,
So I don't know if that needs to
But we
be
have no
clarified.
authority in that.
I
right?
think it should be clarified. Maybe under the,
Is there a list, is there a list anywhere in the,
you know, you could
in the
probably get,
regs where it kind of like lists everything that the town engineer will typically review? Some of the things the planning board may ask the town engineer to review and some of it.
I think it's always been or historically it's been up to the planning board of what to review.
Mhm.
So that might be a change that we want to look at. Either in
What
the
we're looking at,
future.
Whether we trigger an AOT or just, we're actually gonna look at the.
So
What are we gonna-
typically
what are
what
we
you
talking
got,
about there?
well, typically when you guys, currently this is how we're operating. We're trying to adjust that with the PRG. Maybe this is what's kind of spurring this too is, the applicant will say, well, we don't necessarily need the town engineer to review the AOT because the state will do it. But you could say, no, the board, you can ask the applicant, well, no, the board would like the engineer to review AOT. And you could get pushback from the applicant at that point. If you want, it sounds like to me it might be more of a procedural thing that you want to add what they should review. Like you said, there's no typical list because historically it sounds like it was just like for road stuff, and it's involved because of larger scale projects. I'm not an engineer, so
Pushback by
I'm
saying
just-
they should review it based on our regulations.
Right.
You get pushback on
So
that, but I think you're very familiar with them.
yeah, because these have been right for writing them
Look
for
at
us.
them
Yeah.
and
Well, they're gonna
make
do,
judgments on things,
Yes.
you know?
there's like a check sheet to see if they require an AOT permit. Fill out.
Let me see if it might be in our chat.
So for a recent application, they made the statement that an AOT is not required. We looked at the project, like, pretty sure you do.
It was a question, was it contiguous land?
Well, they were,
There's some subjectivity of
Yes.
things,
and.
and it
order-
could be
and
other
order of
projects
work.
that do this.
And so, like, so for instance, we addressed that here, but there's no update by, if it's on a judgment call, either on the planning board or us, where we think maybe an AOT is required, planning board require the applicant to contact DES to get a statement from them saying an AOT is or is not required. I checked with Ridgemark over at DES. Don't do every application, but if it's,
If it looks like it's
Yeah.
potential.
Or maybe we could add that in there under this AOT part to say that.
yeah, so
Some
like,
effect?
so like the stormwater analysis, sometimes you've gotten pushback in having us review that, and then the stormwater design, stormwater treatment system design, 'cause that's what AOT reviews. And like I said, I'm not sure if that happens in Barrington, where Barrington's getting pushed back and having to review it, but I know in other towns, it does happen.
Well, I guess I'm.
So what I'm wondering is, do we put together a list of
What will we
everything?
review? I mean, on every project, they have to do is there a sheet they perform and say we don't need an AOT?
No, there's
There's only
no
a-
standardized list of what we review. Every application is different.
different,
Sometimes we almost always review the design, the plans. But some of the other stuff is hit or miss. Like for instance, a recent application was the environmental review or something. We didn't end up seeing that at
'Cause
all, I don't think.
Yeah, because the board didn't ask for the engineer to review it. So like, typically on applications, the board's asked to do, depending if it's subdivision or site, well, in this instance, it'll be subdivision review, of the regulations as well as stormwater management. That's the typical, has been done. So the board can always ask to review additional things. So it sounds like putting a list together of what the engineer should be looking at, I think would be beneficial. And then we could incorporate that in a future regulation update. And the reason I'm pushing for future is just like, there's a lot of things in here that once it's adopted, any new applications going forward would have to adhere to. So we're hoping at the next planning board meeting to adopt it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just
But-
looking for the,
So the things
let's say
Article
you
7.
say it needs an AOT and they say it doesn't.
Then he sends it to the state to review.
and then it's up to the planning board to decide who do we listen to, unfortunately.
Well,
Like,
let's say.
I would say you would want to listen to your engineer.
So what would we do? Require them to?
So
do
you could say,
it?
okay, well, our town engineer thinks that you are required to have this, and you do not. So can you tell me why? And then he or she would explain why or why not. And I would say, for an example, the question that's coming up, you could then ask the applicant as part of the notice of decision, if they're still pushing back on it, to provide, like you said, like provide
Right.
a letter or statement or what have you, saying that you do or don't need it. Because sometimes when you even
From
talk to,
DES.
yeah, from DES, because when you talk to DES, the project, and maybe, I mean, you talked to him, he can probably better speak to it, but that, when you're explaining something, it may sound like they do need it, or they might be on the borderline. So personally, I think it would be helpful for that, and I think Josh
I
should
just want
feel
to
the
know the end game.
same.
So the end game would be, we want a letter from DES saying that AOT is not required or is required.
Right,
That's, if there's a conflict, we can request a letter from DES confirming that AAG
Is not,
required.
is not required or correct. And maybe that sounds like,
Yeah, and
would
that's,
that satisfy?
well, no, the other thought I had, and this is just me thinking of this as we're
Yeah.
talking, is should a list of what would be typically reviewed in a standard application, that would be reviewed by the engineer. So we review the application itself, maybe we'd review the stormwater system, stormwater analysis, we would review the construction plans, we would review the traffic study. And that way, then the applicant knows what's expected.
I think that's a good idea. Okay.
So we can
And then we
draft,
can put some of those, oh, sorry.
no,
cut you
go
off.
ahead. I'm sorry.
And then we could put some of those maybe at the end that are optional, like the environmental review.
Yeah, I just want to know how to referee this. You know,
Yep.
Yeah.
If the referee is getting a letter from DES, that clarifies what the.
Well, that's two separate things, though. One is a
Yeah.
letter from DES saying if an AOT is required or not, and the other one is adding a list of items that are typically reviewed by the engineer as part of the application process.
Now, before we added that, I want to know what the end game was.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know the end game, I'm okay putting it in.
Okay.
So,
But if you look at Article 7 in the subdivision regulations, where it lists a lot of things done.
It does, but it's always like the board may request.
Right. Do
Yeah.
you
So-
you can handle those or subcontract out all those, right? Should
Yes.
should you have some
Yes.
spectacularly necessary?
here, he's specifically putting on his list of things to review. I think it's good.
I just like doing a separate, list of things to review, and then we'll figure out where to put it, either in here or rules.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have an inspection checklist.
Right.
Same idea.
All right.
We can
great.
find a home
That'd be
for
good.
it somewhere in the regs.
That'd
But
be
yeah,
awesome.
I completely agree. It should be handled after we adopt these changes.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with the list, right?
Yeah, he's gonna draft a list, and then we'll come back at a future work session just to look at the list and see if there's anything we add, because this will be helpful as well for the TRG review, because I think we can get in, and I'm probably just talking all about it now, but for the review for that, there's only certain things that he's looking. I think we only talked about doing the regulations and stormwater.
Yeah,
At that
so the
point,
purpose of us
for
with the
TRG.
TRG is looking at it in the big picture. Are there any glaring issues that so when we put together, when Vanessa and I were talking, it's basically we're gonna spend an hour reviewing their conceptual design and then have an hour in a TRG meeting. And it's basically looking at big picture, are there any glaring issues we see that maybe, because we're getting brought in so far, we're getting brought in at the end of the process. Some of these decisions were made by the applicant, their design process, and we start raising questions, and they've already invested all this time and money into it. The hope is to try to get ahead of all that.
That'd be good, yeah.
A little more money up front, but it saves a lot of money in the end.
Yes.
It really does. It's
faster,
not even that
it's
much money
better.
either. It's only a couple hours worth of time.
It's better for everybody, including the applicant.
And hopefully the applicant sees the value in it too.
Where are we at? Okay, well, we good with the AOT subject? Okay, so we are now looking at page 78, which talks about the release of the performance guarantee. The updates, I believe this is also looked at our town attorney. I think those are her comments.
Yeah, I took all of her comments.
Okay,
and just
yeah,
dropped
so
them.
those are all the town attorney's comments that are reviewed the entire, what was it, 18.2 section. So that, those are more of her comments that needed to be updated. To make sure we're current. Any questions on those? Okay, 79, there's just a few grammatical corrections, I guess I should say. Moving on to page 80. This is in reference to the inspection schedule. So we're adding additional language because there might be additional inspections as necessary. As Josh can attest, there may be other things that they didn't necessarily think of when you're doing your pre-construction meeting. There might be other things that they need to inspect further down the line. and we wanted to firm up what was required for the as-built drawings. I know Josh, we're gonna starting to feel a little bit of pushback, even things that haven't been completed yet. So I wanted to incorporate some stronger language for that.
Yeah, we thought the as-built section needed to get beefed up. So basically, this past year, we've been getting kickback from contractors building these projects and the developer on what they want us to do. And so we're trying to add some teeth to this and make it clear what their requirements are. Be able to point to something that this is why you need to do.
Other than we require as-builts.
Yeah.
That also bleeds over into page 81 a little bit. So issuing of building permits, there's a section under there that was, yeah.
Is there in here that should, the ball starts rolling and agrees on what's to be done? Is there anybody goes out for inspection during that time to make sure it's done the way, or is it give an after? A lot of that going on, and I'm just wondering, are there steps being taken?
That's what we're trying to get to. So that's the problem. We're getting kickback from the developers and how we have our opinion how often we think we should be out there. They have their opinion how often they think we should be out there. So we're getting kickback or pushback from them.
Are we trying to?
We're trying to add more stronger language to get what the town, what's in the town's best interest, and make sure the projects are constructed properly.
They pushing back on the road construction? Like,
Yeah, they don't want us out there as often as we think we should be. Because they want us to certify the work and say everything's been completed. But they don't want us out there often enough to.
if the various levels in
Yes.
a road have been completed, right? The town takes the road over and then.
So also, if your question too, Donna, I don't know if they look more for like the road inspections, not necessarily like compliance. If it's like, you're alluding to like maybe like the site plan ones, maybe that's something that we might need to look at a little bit differently too. Is that what you mean? Like otherwise, because once the town engineer comes in for looking at the roads, essentially, and making sure they're built to town standards, are you asking for outside of that or just for the road?
After the project. Like once they, everything that apartments, then they just, and things are brought back up, later on. I'm not talking about timber, I'm talking. That's the most important.
Do you have your microphone on? There's people online saying they can't hear you. They said they can't hear you. That's okay.
So I'm not sure. So our focus is on the work being completed within the right of way, and then typically drainage infrastructure that falls outside the right of way. It might be a stormwater pond that's in somebody's backyard or in the open space or whatever.
Right.
If we see stuff otherwise, we typically would note it in our observation reports. But I don't know if you necessarily have purview over, or if the town has purview over.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm also not sure.
Usually DES has logging, stuff like that is.
Yeah, so I'm not sure responsible for making sure the clearing limits were.
So what is the acreage? I know there is a certain amount of money, logs that you can take off, or trees, before you really have to go to DES. What, do you know the amount?
No, I
You
don't.
You don't have an idea. Okay. That's a good,
Yeah, at a certain level, you have to file an intent to cut to
Right.
with the town because they get a tax. But like a guy cutting 5 or 6 trees in his yard, that
Oh,
would be a
that's not-
problem,
yeah.
right?
right.
So there is a break point.
Got to file a sedimentation and erosion. Certain size.
Yeah.
Right, the erosion and everything, I mean,
Sedimentation and erosion, both.
Right.
They have to plan for that.
okay, thank you, great, thank you.
Oh, back to page 81. Did you get your question? Because it says, okay, there's a comment on there about, at a section about developer complying with inspection requirements. We did ask the town attorney on it. I forwarded it to you. She was kind of vague about it.
Yeah, she was vague.
Um,
I'm sure I had this comment in a while ago.
I know.
Which refers
So I
back to
apologize. We looked at
the-
this back in January, and last work session, I was really sick, so that's why we didn't hold it. Trying to remember what,
And maybe that's referring to making sure the inspection process was properly completed before building permits were issued. Because I think that's where the town can add some teeth to the inspection kickback we're getting. Is if the town says you can't get a building permit unless you meet inspection requirements. I think that's what I was trying to get at there.
Hey, town attorneys. This is like,
Yeah, there's no language in there to get at what I'm talking
this
about.
is something
So since the
Bonds,
language isn't there, it's probably
inspections,
something you'd add in afterwards.
maybe I can find it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not informed this. So the attorney said like all comments from the town engineer arising from inspections are addressed to the town's engineer's satisfaction. That's why I think I remembered it was kind of vague. That's what,
Not even vague, how much.
make sure that you like the submittals, I guess.
I think we can take care of this at a future revision,
Okay,
because there's no language presented here, so you can't have you
look at it.
agree to it, so, we'll draft something up and then.
So,
I said that will go on Vanessa's list.
Yep.
for
so
future
I just put in future and then, address it at the next one. Bond infrastructure, including roads and utilities, must be in place prior to sale of any parcel or application for building permit for structures. I don't know if we can I probably have to have her look at that
Okay.
to answer that one.
That'll be 5-1.
I did, or,
No, your name is on it.
yeah. How about, if it's okay for everybody, if we can look at that next time? Okay. Next time will be relatively soon. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they should look at, because a lot of developers like to own the land before they did.
Right.
Especially if they want to customize their house. I mean,
Well, like one project right now in Meadowbrook, they've sold off the lots and the roads.
5 of them have been sold already.
Oh, have they?
If you rough in the road, they sell the lots,
It's
Of course, you can
just under
possibly
$200,000.
Put custom touches in the house, the typical stuff.
Okay, so let's
You throw a
circle
house on
this.
there.
Yeah,
You're a
right?
Developer, not an engineer.
I know. All right, moving on. Page 85, just adding some definitions of what a lot merger is. I put the lot frontage that was adopted by the zoning ordinance. I thought it'd probably be good to have it there
Okay.
as well. As well, what a minor subdivision and major subdivision are. Any questions or thoughts on those? Page 86. I think,
Those things.
yeah, we looked at doing the intersection or site distance intersection. This is page 86. And the site distance stopping for a better definition. Because we've gotten a lot of,
Yeah, I know.
Pushback on that.
And now we're meeting the national standards.
Good.
That's good.
That's good.
questions there. And the last one is just saying what a voluntary lot merger is.
Great.
That is for the regulations with the engineer. I anticipate having this come before the April 2nd board for adoption with these changes. It sounds like since we didn't make any major changes except to push them off till next time, the board is in agreement with having the public hearing on them for it. Okay. And those of you that are in the audience or online, if you have questions or anything about the subdivision regulations we've gone over tonight, the public hearing will be at our April, make sure I'm saying it right. It is April 2nd. Yep, our April 2nd meeting will be on one of the first item agendas. So there'll be public comment then if you have any additional questions or that sort of thing. Okay. So next, still with the subdivision regulations, just is the updated checklist.
Checklist, yep.
Other than it's the checklist is was last done in 2009. I just wanted to add a little bit of, a lot of people are questioning, like when applicants come in, not everybody is an engineer, but everybody has to fill out the same application. So I wanted to give a little bit of information on why it's required and where to refer to if you have additional questions. I have not updated, on that note, I have not updated the checklist from the prior checklist other than how many copies we provide. And then there was a question about, like if you look on 5A document on the first page, it says, should easements and deeds be separated? It's item number F under section 1. Any thoughts on that? If you are okay with having combined or separate, I mean, I would agree. I think the separate would be more helpful, but that was really the only comments we had, unless there's other things that you,
Well, deeds kind of falls in with documents.
it's just helpful for you guys to know.
Yep.
And thinking about it, that there is a section on here for like, where is it? It might have fallen. My numbering seems weird. I feel like I'm missing a page. Because Article 7, the optional studies, does everybody's back page look as wonky as this? Okay, that's my fault, I guess. It was supposed to be like the additional,
Article 7 stuff.
yeah, the Article 7 stuff. Maybe this is where we could also put the list for the engineer
Yeah.
too. Just a thought. I don't know what you guys think. That might be a good place to put it too.
Well, it seems a lot of these things do require a big Article 7 look.
Right.
Topography that's involved.
So the reason for the checklist, like I'm doing this specifically for subdivision boundary line adjustment, which is basically all of our subdivision
Right.
stuff. But there's just different sections that they need to cross off, but, so to make an application complete, they need to make sure that all of this, with the exception of the Article 7 stuff, is met.
Okay.
Because the Article 7 stuff is the optional stuff that the board could require at a later date. Are you guys okay with putting this for public hearing as well on the 2nd, or do you want to wait until we get the additional checklist? Are you okay with me coming back with when we do like the things that are required by the town engineer? I guess someone asked me if you, will you please endorse this on the 2nd? Vote on it.
I recommend
Okay.
reading those.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
Okay. So that, because I'm trying, I'm getting closer at redoing our planning board applications as well. So this will be part of that as well. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Full review group?
Yeah.
I think we discussed that, didn't we?
We discussed it a lot in depth. Let me just take a quick, not a break, but does anybody else have any questions for the town engineer while he's here? I don't know if you want to stay for the tier.
If you want me to, I can.
It's up to you.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Answer questions.
Okay. It's not considered public comment, but. Mm-hmm. Do you, is it in reference to the subdivision regulations? Okay. That's up to the
Sure, go ahead.
chairperson. So we got open public comment.
Open public comment.
Can you please come up to the microphone and turn on whichever one you feel comfortable with, make sure the light's on green so we can hear you. Okay.
I'm Linda Brushet when I'm on drive.
Can you make sure that it's on green? It will not pick you up otherwise for meeting minutes. I appreciate
I'm
you.
Linda
Thank you.
Brushet, 106 Harlan Drive. I thought this was a public hearing, and I just really wanted to thank you, basically, for the hard work that you've done to sort out these regulations. I've sat through a number of hearings this year, and I can see that, with the young thing and the coot farm, various things, that, a lot of these changes are reflective of the kinds of misinformation or lack of understanding on the part of the development and all of that. So I think this is really good to get everything sorted. The only question I had is that the development about which we are most concerned was a design review in December. Obviously, I'm trying to figure out, since I parse these regulations, how does the developers that have their things before know that they're going to go with this set of regulations over here, the old ones and the new ones? How does that all work out so that we all know what we're looking at is really what I wanted to know, so that we're not
They would be
parsing
the
two
current
different
regulations.
Eh?
The stuff we're discussing tonight to add.
Yeah, you're discussing the
apply to
new
new
ones,
stuff.
but when these get posted,
So,
how does, just to be clear, that
does that
we're all
work?
looking at, when our development comes forward, that we know which set of regulations we're dealing with, because we made a lot of changes in the zoning ordinances and so forth. So I just wanted to get my head straight as to, do I print it all out now so I have the right set, or?
we do have copies available to purchase at the land use department if you don't want to print it out. To answer your question, when an application comes in, we make sure that they're following the current regulations. The land use department does like a courtesy email, I guess I should say, to, we have a list of surveyors that we use in town to notify like these have been changed. It's really up to the applicant to be knowledgeable of the current regulation.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned, but I'm also concerned about the abutters and the people that are going to be reviewing the work that the applicant and the various studies, just so that everybody knows, so that we know what we're looking at. And not just us, but there's other subdivision in the mill. So it's really, I'm concerned about the public being able to know which we're looking at, as well as the applicant.
So I think in your interest, the application has not come forth for a formal application. So they'll have to go to whatever the current regulations are. So for example, I think the deadline's already passed. Yeah. So I can tell you right now, they're not on the agenda for the April 2nd because the deadline's already passed. And we anticipate adopting these regulations at the April 2nd meeting. So that would make that into effect that night per se.
See, I thought when we were at the Coop Farm hearing that you had said that if a person had a design hearing, that's when the clock started ticking. So that the development that we're concerned about had a design hearing, I think it was in December. So what regulation will that development have to abide by? The new zoning and the new this, or the old?
For the one I think you're in question
The
of, the
Myriad
NIPO one or
development,
whatever,
yeah.
that would have to be all the new regulations. The
Okay.
stipulation for the Coop Farm, and then there's also one for Garrier.
Yeah.
They came in for design before the public notice was posted for the zoning changes.
Okay.
So that's only relieving them of zoning changes for a year from when design closed. So like when the board closes design that evening, that's when the clock starts their 1 year.
Okay, so the My Arena development was December 23. So they're under the old regulations, even though they haven't made a formal application? Or are they going to be under these new ones?
They're not exempt from the new zoning regulations.
Not exempt.
So they would have to follow the new zoning
Okay.
for that one. For the other two are not because of the way
All
those
right.
were submitted.
So.
Short, easy answers. Yes, and I mean, and then obviously the current projects that are already going on adhere to the current zoning and subdivision or site plan review regulations when they were submitted. But
Well, that's very good. Anyway, just wanted to thank you. That's why we came. It's quite
Well, thank you.
interesting.
Well, it's so much,
We'll have to deal with.
Yeah.
it's so much fun, as you can see.
Yeah.
We're looking for new recruits here.
We do have applications on the side if you
Yeah,
think about
we
it.
have a couple of applications
No,
over there.
it's really interesting listening. I think that all very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we shouldn't get rid of these old ones. They still see somebody coming through. under
I
this.
would keep them in your back pocket necessary for one thing, but
Maybe not just
Gonna
that.
recycle tonight.
but you can recycle tonight, but
You're
those
saying
two,
we
like for
may-
in those are the only two cases that came before the board that for that zoning ordinance, other than ones that are already currently open.
Is it, I don't know if I can ask this in public. Is the Coots Farm been?
They have
Take
not
care.
submitted a formal application at all. We haven't seen any, haven't had any further communication
So
from the
Garrier
developers yet.
and another one,
The Coop Farm.
Oku Farm too.
So is it when they submit
Do you
their
mind closing
application?
public comment?
Closing public comment.
Application is, those are the regulations they need to abide by?
Yes, so for subdivision and site plan review, right? The zoning one was a question because if it's considered a design, that gives them 1 year to be under the old. And from my understanding is once the regulations are adopted, and as long as there's not a project that has already been submitted, they must meet the current regular subdivision and
Okay, so let me see. So the zoning is grandfathered for a year.
for only those two cases. And obviously the current
But
ones are
everything
open.
that's in is for design review or application, they have a year to be under the old regular.
It's just those two that we've been tracking.
And then subdivision takes place, happens, so it's right away.
Right, so that's why I wanted to kind of push these ones to be for the public hearing and adoption on
Get them
the
adopted.
second, because since there's so many, not all changes are relevant, but a lot of things that we've been working on. And we know of other big projects coming in. We wanted to make sure that those were corrected and those are active per se. And then other ones that maybe we can push off to another review. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I know. John promised me we could be out by 8:30, so we're on a roll. The technical review the group procedure, as you see it before us, I pretty much already discussed a lot of it. I did want to touch again upon the fee structure, or not structure, but the fee comment. The fee structure will be in the rules of procedure, but how does the board feel about having all major subdivision and site plans required to have engineer review? I think it sounded like from before that it was a consensus of yes, because all applications are going to go through the TRC process. No cost to the applicant. The only cost would be for the major subdivisions. Initially, the attorney said, well, give that option up to the applicant. However, I think we should require it ahead of time, because it sounds like that's where a lot of the problems shake out before coming to the board. Okay, so I will update that just to say that, and also to add the planning board chair as a member or designee. And then just verify with the attorney if I think that's fine. And if not, we'll address that. And then, so also I'm asking for this to be adopted for public hearing and adoption on the 2nd. If that does occur, if everybody's fine with this goes and what the attorney says, that would be looking at starting our new process. You'd have to bear with me, I guess, the chair more than anybody else. That we would receive all our plans by the 17th. The pre-submittal deadline, just so everybody knows, is already our deadlines in our office. So we're trying not to make it more confusing for anybody. So new applications always 21 days before, and that's when we decided to do that. Have our TRG meetings the first Thursday of every month, unless something happens. And then there's internal deadlines for submit to the planning board. So there is a delay as far as an application going through for the applicant side, because then they'll push that timeline out for them. But other than that, does anybody have any questions on the schedule, meeting and application deadline schedule? It was hard to figure out for a little bit or start doing it. I think I got it.
That's good.
And of course, that can be subject to change if we don't have any cases, which I'd be shocked, but I think we'd all be happy. Maybe, I don't know, a little break, yeah. Yeah, might not. So, so it sounds like we're okay to move forward with that. Okay.
Sounds good.
And then, the next thing is the planning board. I'm sorry, I've kind of overtaken it.
It's okay.
Sorry, I'm on a roll. I had a Dr. Pepper. I don't know. I'm very hyper. Okay. So the updates to the rules of procedure here is, there was some discussion from a board member, and I talked a little bit with the chair with it, wanted to bring forth tonight. That wasn't a part of the submittal, but I think it's a good thing to bring up. We were talking about meetings and ending times and continuing of new cases. In the past, the board has had the appetite to, no, let's just keep going and going and going. And it sounded like to me that we should probably have an end time at 10, unless other new cases. If we're finishing up one, it's not going to be like, oh, you have 2 more minutes, you can't finish. To finish that, but no new cases to be heard after 10 o'clock.
Stop.
Right, and if you can certainly continue it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I don't agree with
I'm
that.
going to bring that up again, because I've had some people.
You don't agree with the
I don't
10 PM thing?
No,
Okay.
no. If, some of the applicants, they bring engineers and people, and if we don't get to them and we bump them to the next meeting, that's right. These engineers, if at 10 o'clock, they've been sitting there on the clock for 2.5 hours, and then we don't get to them, they have to come back for another meeting. Say we keep on going and we get it done.
I disagree, because I'm up at 4 o'clock every day. I work a good 12-hour day, and then when I come in here and I sit for 10 to 11 o'clock. I am no good, and you've seen me, I'm slap happy around 9 o'clock. I'm useless to this board, totally. I'm useless to myself. I respect the fact that an engineer has been waiting. I definitely, respect that, and the applicant, totally. But what good are we if we can't even function? I mean, taking a 10 o'clock break to come back, and you've been on these meetings too, where we were on the Zoom, it'd be 1 o'clock, we got off it. What good will we?
1
Really,
o'clock?
Yes.
That's excessive.
I never
Yes.
stayed that late.
Yes.
Our meetings have been
It's-
running longer lately, and
I really feel
in some of our cases,
if we quit
Do
some
you
of this.
think it would be good if you, as you're doing your agenda, and you just look at that, and you
yes.
see a couple of people at the bottom?
Yeah, so if it's in our rules of procedure, that's when we can enforce it too. So
You-
I
you-
do this for the
you can
ZBA.
contact them.
Yeah, and say you're
"Listen,"
number 4 on the list. We
and-
anticipate that it could be a long meeting. You have the option to ask for a continuance
Right,
because everybody's already been notified that that would be happening. Or would you like to take your chance and wait till,
yeah, then it's up to them
Them.
if they have
I
something.
would like to be, I'm okay with more actively managing the agenda and not ask them, encourage them to bump it,
Right.
Tell them that, we're not likely to get to you until
Right.
11 o'clock at night.
and other,
Yeah.
this,
I agree there,
other
yeah.
communities do this too, so this is not like a new idea. A lot of them already adopt a time, some of them say 9, some of them say 10. That seems to be I know that our zoning board has put a time limit on themselves too. If there's new cases after a certain amount of time, they say, sorry, we'll continue to another
I'm okay
meeting.
with putting it like a soft 10 down and managing the agenda so
Mhm.
We're not having a.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be like
people,
we're right in the middle of a case file and say, oh, no, it's
Yep.
10 o'clock, sorry, bye. No,
Well,
not
I
like
would like to
that,
finish
but,
a case.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think,
I don't
Well, we
want
did
if
stop
they,
in the
if they bring
middle
a
of the
lawyer
case.
and an engineer and all that stuff, and I don't want to bump them to that.
yeah, so we would know definitely ahead of time because when we set the agenda, we usually know about 2 weeks out, like what it looks like. There's some last minute things, but
I mean, I wouldn't
overall,
say-
we
I
know what
wouldn't-
it looks like. And if it's a heavy caseload,
I wouldn't ask them, I would tell
I would tell, yeah.
Yeah,
them. We got to
confirm.
reschedule the next meeting, we got a heavy agenda. We want to finish at 10, we don't think we'll finish at 10, so we have to.
Yeah,
turn the-
well, we do have to give them the option though, if it's already been noticed.
Is there any way you can
So.
make the agenda where you have these light cases, have them go first, get them out of here?
So we can look at that way. I try to be fair and I go the order of which they were received.
But sometimes I tell you, somebody that just has maybe a 30-minute case or
Yeah,
20,
somebody's around
sitting
for a
here
private
until-
road thing.
Yeah, so
for
private
example.
roads, for example, we were listing at the end, so I did have moved those to the front because in general,
Yeah.
those are pretty
Yeah, we're just gonna.
quick
So if we
because
can
they're not the decision
accommodate as
making.
many people as we can at the beginning.
Yeah, we can definitely look at trying
And
to,
then-
yeah.
And then, like you said, those cases, I mean, those big cases, definitely,
Mhm. Because
So
we
you give them
usually,
a warning, and when we open
Yeah.
the meeting, we can give.
yeah, because we
another
usually
warning,
do
say,
continuing cases first.
Right.
So you'd have to do the continuing cases because it's been notified that way. And then all the new applications, we could look at
but give-
filtering it that way, like the ones that maybe need less attention or minor ones, I guess I
Right.
should say, minor
I mean,
applications
we've
versus
seen
major
many a times
applications.
where we've had somebody, it was the last one, I think it was like 10:30, 11
Yeah,
o'clock.
yeah, I remember.
And it's like, okay, I've been here. I
Yeah.
felt so bad for him. Really, we could have gotten that done in the very beginning. He could have
Yeah, we
gone
can
on.
look at doing
Yeah.
that from an administrative side of trying to
We feel
reorganize
with
that a
the
little
right
bit.
Scheduling and the notice to the ones that's gonna have a meeting, give them that option, but we'll definitely try to get to them and if we're in the middle of it, we're in the middle of it. We're gonna
Right.
continue. We're not
Right.
gonna say, oh, too bad,
Right.
10 o'clock.
Yeah,
Right.
we won't cut people
Yeah.
off in the middle
No,
of the
I think that's very
decision.
wrong.
What do you
Like,
think, Ron? Soft 10?
I could put no new cases and,
Well, I mean.
past 10
what's-
PM.
10 is the target, I mean, I would say actively manage the agenda.
Right.
So
That
that
might be a big.
if we
impact.
don't think we can get it done by 10, just tell them we can't, you're gonna have to bump you to.
So there's also, it could also depend on turnout because we don't always know. Like the Coot Farm, we're anticipating a turnout, but honestly, for myself, maybe, you guys are residents of the town, so you would know better. I was really surprised about the big turnout.
Right.
And there was a lot of public comment we didn't get to, and I knew it was because of weather, but that's like, sometimes we don't know as well as until you come to a meeting because like design is not the final say, but some people, even though we try to educate them when they call our office, that this is a one and done thing. This is the first time I've heard of it. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is the
well, we put
board's
the-
gonna
we put
decide
the
on it
3-minute
too? So
rule
that
in.
could be
That's-
that.
That'll help.
Okay.
Because, we used to have people.
Yeah, because
before
we
that-
have that in our rules of
Got the new buzzer
procedure.
For the
But
3-minute rule.
yes, I gotta remember to give it to you. That was last time
I
it
mean,
was
we
in
used
the
to have people
bucket.
go on, and that's what dragged out long.
Right.
Right.
The 3-minute rule will help a lot.
Okay.
That's up
Okay.
to the chair to be more firm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, for me,
Come on,
I
Chair.
agree, you know.
if you want me
Give
to,
me
I
one of
can be the
those pump
buzzer
squirt
person.
Once you move the line, John, what's
If
the
you want me
line?
to, I can be the buzzer person.
You know what I
You're
mean?
more
If
nice
The line is
than
3
I am.
minutes. Once you ignore that line, what's the next line? You gotta be tough.
I
I
gotta be
think
tough.
when you hear the beeping though, I have noticed like when you hear that beep of it,
We're here to
even though
serve
you're
the
still
public,
talking,
but
I feel like it's a
it's too
conscious,
much.
subconscious
Thing
thing
to
being
kind
like,
of
okay,
find
well, I
out.
need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I feel
Well, I
like
mean,
that
you-
helped.
Some of the, there's gonna be multiple meetings on this.
Oh,
You
of
can't
course.
get done 3 meetings, say what you have points on, come back to the next meeting, and if you get more stuff to say more
Yep.
stuff. You know, you don't need to tell us everything it's in your head
Mhm.
on this one meeting. I know what I mean?
I like what you said one time, Tim, meeting, there was a bunch of them, I forget what it was, and you said, does anybody else want to talk that hasn't, that already hasn't been mentioned, I mean,
Yeah, don't
sometimes
keep
it's
repeating the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we heard that
Yeah.
5 times.
And I know our town attorney has also said that too, like
Yeah.
subject matter too, like, is there any new
Right, that's a good.
Um,
Yeah, you providing any information
Yeah.
or,
any new
Discussion.
information? You know,
Right.
we've heard that there's issues with water quality
Right,
or
whatever,
whatever,
yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's tough, sometimes people get on something that, like, a lot of times we had comments in the last one about, impacting the school systems.
right.
And that is specifically excluded from added.
Yep.
Right.
So the question is, it's kind of rude to cut them off.
Right,
But if they're making a point that
It's
has no
not
merit,
relevant, right?
you might as well cut them off.
Yep.
Because,
Right.
it's just
Right,
wasting everybody's time.
to just politely alert them that that's not something we
Yeah.
can consider.
We can't consider that.
I'm gonna reel us back in to finish up the rules of procedure. The major changes was just like add like page 6 of 12 just talks about that we're adding a TRG, that they need
Yep.
to go to the TRG. The biggest thing are the fee schedule. It's not necessarily it's changing in that so technical review committee, we were initially thinking about charging all applications an application fee, but it sounds like we come to that decision for the major minor.
Yep.
The $350. And I can put in there like an overview of like what you're gonna read. So there may be further things there. So and if there's an additional meeting needed, 175. That was the fee schedule that the town engineer said that he could do it at. The only other, it's not necessarily a big thing, but the notice of decisions, I don't know if it was prior practice like this to have them include to be a certified mailing fee. Because some people have also said they'd never gotten the notice of decision. So I think I would just like to
Sure.
solidify that.
That's
so.
a good idea.
And I think that's it for the update for the rules of procedure.
may I add something to it? Or ask
Absolutely.
something?
Sure.
So there's a definition of being a board member and an alternate, right?
Oh, yeah.
There is. Am I right? I'm pretty
Yes.
sure I read it somewhere.
Yes.
So my question is, to be a board member, I feel, this is me, or maybe we should consider that you have to attend meetings. You know what I'm saying?
Are you saying the alternates?
An alternate, now, I was an alternate for a while, and I would call Barbara, like I'd say on Tuesday. I said, do you have everybody? And she said, yep, I do. Well, I still got the packet. I could read on it, but I didn't have to be here if I didn't want to, or I could be on the.
Be online, sure.
You know what I mean? I that's my vision of somebody who isn't really wanting to be here every meeting. I really feel that we should make some kind of statement saying that if you cannot come to the meetings, I mean, everybody gets sick, believe me, but you know what I mean, something consistent.
Yeah. Well, some towns
think
do
it's like-
have it. If you miss a certain number of meetings, you can.
Right. I was going to say that
Right.
some towns have that stipulation.
Is that
and-
something we can do? Because I'm sure on your behalf, on the admin behalf, it's kind of hard. I know Barbara sends out a note and says, who can attend, you know?
And one board member chooses to ignore it or just does not answer.
So
And I feel
then-
like I have to chase one board member or another. There's actually two that I chase, let's put it that way,
Right,
to see if they're coming or not. And,
which puts this in jeopardy.
yeah, so I would feel like that would be valuable. And also for the board, because if there's someone that can't be, even though they want to serve,
Right. Be an
that
alternate.
hinders the board a little bit
Right.
as well.
I say this, I agree with you, but we haven't got a lot of people vying to get on the board.
I know.
right now.
Yeah.
So
No,
maybe now's not a good time to be putting new requirements
well,
in.
no, and I do agree with you
I'm
there,
not
I
in favor
do,
of
but I
burning
also,
anybody.
I also feel that, not, taking a position and not coming to it, it leaves us on the hook
I agree.
until the very last minute, and
I
is
think-
that fair to our public,
Yeah,
is it?
I absolutely agree with you, Donna.
So
but
that's the
we haven't
part.
got anybody who wants to be on the board, so.
I'm
You have some
trying.
Recruits that
I'm
you
trying.
would-
Joyce was trying. That one gentleman.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
a big part of it, when I've asked people, is the time commitment. Like, people want to go away for the winter,
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever.
But if they
And
start
then
out
we
as
get
an
alternate
alternate,
position,
you
yeah.
they don't have
Yeah.
to. as much.
So should we only
Okay.
pull these during the summer?
We have to have at least one meeting per month. I think that's a requirement.
I will
So,
say for new members, though, wouldn't be bad to have a staff sit down with them and give them a quick primer on how, you know, that three sections and what they all mean and how the CBA does this, we do this.
Yeah.
I think coming in cold, it's a little, get up to speed with them.
I'm already here.
It would've been helpful.
If I can be here and add value,
Just
I can
come on
stay.
in, nobody
I'm
told
already
me
I didn't
this
know.
was- I mean, I had to,
Yeah.
and I'm still in, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
And that's
Fine.
hard, that's hard.
okay, so it sounds like maybe you want to hold off on that? Is
On
it
what?
consensus?
I mean,
Oh,
I guess putting rules in where you
What are you
kick
shaking
somebody
your
off,
big yes
I think it's a good idea.
agree with
but I'd be
Ron.
wary of putting-
But-
If we had people that were interested.
we don't.
but that's why we don't want to kick anybody
So
off.
here we sit,
Well, there
Here-
could
here we
be
sit.
someone, so I could give an example of a ZBA member that just joined. He wanted to be a full-time member. He wasn't necessarily interested in the planning board, but he was like, what land use boards positions for a full member are open? So, I can't say that he might have changed his mind and been like, oh, I want to do planning board because he had experience on the planning board. But that might be, just giving my 2 cents, like, that might be the deterrent. They're like, well, they already have a full board. I don't really want to be an alternate. I'm not sure what that means. Or like, I want to participate. And
They just can't
So-
vote. They can participate in the
Right, you just
discussion
can't
as
I know.
much as they want, right?
Yeah,
So-
but
Yeah.
when I joined,
Right.
I said I wouldn't be an alternate.
Really?
see, and that,
I'm not gonna do the work and I don't have a vote.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work for me.
so
doing the
I
work, I
see
wanna
where
vote.
that comes into play is if members have every good intention to being able to come, but just
You know,
can't
bring
make
the
it because of
work.
things.
Mhm.
There may be others that want to be a full board member, but know that it's full and just like, well,
And
yeah,
thi-
I don't want to be an
really-
alternate.
I feel the
So
time
you-
the time cutoff too is gonna help, because I know a lot of people that have been to these meetings
Yeah.
afterwards, I go, are you kidding? You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. So, I think if
Okay.
we retool ourselves and put
Well,
ourselves
if you
out
did
there a
have
little
somebody, I
different.
suppose we could ask somebody if they wanted to step down to be. But that's only my thought. I mean, if you had somebody that would only come to be a full member that would show
I
up.
can't
at
speak for
any-
the current board member that we're kind of,
Oh, I can't
the-
either, right. So-
hasn't
Right.
shown up, but,
Might be worth conversation.
in the past, he has not been interested, but
Oh,
I
okay.
don't mind asking
Okay.
again. That might be a good compromise just to ask.
But.
Because you never know,
um,
because I know,
And I also said if you have somebody that's waiting in the wings,
Well,
but if we don't.
but I don't know, because it could just
But
be
it's
like,
hard to.
it's hard to gauge if they're like, well, the board's full, I don't want to be an alternate member, I want to be a full board or nothing, then,
Well, if they call you up and said, I'd like to be a full member.
well, you guys
You could
usually, you're the voices of the community. I think you might hear more than I do. That's how it goes with Tracy anyways, with the ZBA. She tries to recruit people. Have you heard from him ever? No. So I get it, but I do think the time thing would help. And then, so just to circle back, I feel like we're split. Are we adding stipulations in about,
I think we're gonna skip them for now.
the limits, or look, should we go around and see what
Are we
everybody
talking about
says?
time limits now on meetings?
Yeah, like
Oh,
if
the
you don't,
timing.
or no, I mean
Talking
the,
about
Number
The
of
members.
remember, if you decide you're not gonna make, I don't know, I'd have to look at other towns do, I knew other towns do it, but there's a certain amount of meetings, and then you're not considered a board member or something like
step
that.
down.
Around,
You could research what other towns
Okay.
do.
and see if
Okay.
they could ask that person to step down rather than,
Well, rather than step down, maybe step down to an alternate.
Right.
that's what I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
step down. to
But
an
not-
alternate.
So, but not addressing it in our regulations right now, is what I'm getting, or the rules of procedure, is what I'm getting at right now.
Well, you're gonna
We don't wanna
look.
piss anybody
Well,
off
I
right now.
think we need a little research.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
research it and get
Got
back, and there's
Okay.
no big rush.
But if it's okay with the board, I'd like to ask adoption of how this is
Sure.
written for the April 2nd as well.
Wanna vote?
You wanna vote?
Well, it has to go for a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So the public hearing will be the 2nd,
Oh, okay.
and then,
then we'll do
then
the
we'll
vote.
vote it then.
Okay,
Okay, lots of voting on this.
you're really
Shorter
pushing.
agenda, but more voting.
Okay, it's 8:22,
Okay, good. So our next,
right?
I like this. I like this new John.
Item D, discussion recommended on map 239, lot 7, purchase using the tax increment financing scheme.
So,
Discuss utilization of lot. That's our task. Discuss the
I see.
And
utilization
John,
of lot.
I don't wanna, I have one item I want to add to this, updates. It'll truly be short, it'll be short.
wait, to go back to what? I'm sorry.
Other business.
Okay,
Oh,
under
other
business. Okay,
business
sure.
after this.
Absolutely. And you can be fine.
You have the floor. Go ahead.
Just a quick rundown. It was not necessarily last minute, but Connor had asked the planning board to consider the accepting the parcel. Let me see if I say this right.
Oh, okay.
It was voted on, right? This was amendment.
Right, so
24.
it's a more procedural thing. It's already been voted on by the voters, but it's part of the RSA
Oh, yeah. it's
4114A.
Okay.
That the planning board has to also agree with, I guess essentially what the voters had already voted. So they're looking just a letter or a memo from the planning
Okay.
office.
So like a letter that you send for the private
It's
road
very
stuff.
similar to private roads, that you support or not support the purchase or acquiring of the property.
Well, my only question, I guess, I'm glad Joyce is here, is are we buying the property for 905, it's appraised for 550?
It was not appraised for 550.
This is the thing they gave us.
No, it was appraised for 8 and $1 million.
Sheet you gave us had the appraisal on it, was like $550,000.
Let's see if we can
I
figure
think it
out
would be a
what
great lot for a library, right next to the elementary school.
Wait for that one.
I know, the timing of it had been different.
I threw it out.
Yeah, but to build, you couldn't get $1 million
So,
building.
in the packet, 5D, this was all information provided by the town administrator.
Land evaluation. I
And
see.
it says the land, I see where you're seeing that, it says ad valorem,
511.
where it says 511-200, is that what you mean?
So we're talking about page 3?
I think so, it's like the property record card,
Right
yeah.
here, right here. This one right here.
Oh,
I saw five, that's my only question, Joyce, what?
Yeah,
Says
that's not the
511.
information we were given. We were given, when we asked, first we thought we would get 3, but we ended up for some reason getting 2. And the seller came up with $1 million, and the one we hired came up with 8 or 8. It was not 550.
This is 511, so.
Yeah, so.
Raises an eyebrow.
But this isn't an appraisal, this is an assessment. And we're always told if you go to the tax office and ask, question it, 2 totally different things.
I filed an abatement, I had the assessor come in my house, I agree. Not a good experience, I will tell you that, Joyce, I was not happy, it's not a transparent process, they're not open, I had all kinds of comps, I didn't want to talk about the comps, it was a very,
And so you didn't figure it in,
I'm
but
appealing to the state, I mean, I got zero satisfaction from that, zero. I was pissed off the whole day.
I did that too, because they had so much wetlands. in the
So,
back.
I
think
mean, I
they
guess
took
I'd have to go with
$800
Bob's
off.
explanation, because
Okay,
Yeah, so what I'm looking for,
you want an actual vote?
yes, please, a vote that you accept,
That just means
Listen up.
not taxing enough.
Yes.
how do you want to say it?
so one of us need to make the motion.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I moved that, is there some language here? that we accept,
Not really.
acquiring the land as voted on by the voters at the recent.
Sounds good.
Good enough? Second? Ron
Donna,
seconded?
Donna
Everybody
seconded it.
everybody.
Oh, Donna,
Donna
that's
seconded
right,
it.
Donna, I'm
I
sorry.
got Donna. How's Donna?
Defer.
Okay.
Sure.
And the
Roll
ladies
call.
one.
Capiello, aye.
Masucci, aye.
That's the air high.
Well, that was us, you were really making us wonder what you
Alan,
were
aye.
gonna say.
I
Just
voted
aye.
against it.
Now you have.
No, we-
But now
We can discuss it now too, so Connor just said to like, we can limit the discussion right now since it's still like just passed, but if there's any ideas of utilization of the lot, I know that they had proposed recreational uses.
Library.
I'm gonna have with this.
Library's already been moving.
A library
Then
there
they'd
for
done
us.
that.
Maybe we could sell the library
Well, I mean,
and make a
I
profit.
mean, we can address that at a further work session too.
it's gonna be funded
But
by a TIF, so we got no
Yes.
TIF money right now.
Sounds
so
like election day,
I
you
think
can go
it's a
good
deep-
for
That
Bob.
can be a future
Be a
argument.
great daycare.
yeah, so originally I thought that's what he wanted us to discuss, and he just knows kind of like, can you make sure that you
If there's
part
some
of the
vision we're
statutory
gonna have some
process.
TIF money, I guess I'd be more enthusiastic about discussing what to do with it.
We have to be able
I can
to
tell
talk
him that
about
like
it
once we
without-
start
Yeah, if there's some-
forming the committee, because there is going to be a committee formed. I was told it's 5 members. What did Connor say? 5 members.
Yeah, a commission.
Or you might know a little bit
Well,
better.
I just said it'll be 5-member commission. I don't think it's gonna be planning board or select board members.
Like people
It will
from the
be
community.
Who can apply to be on it and. and-
Town staff will probably be there just to be like not as a voting member, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that there has to be TIF money on the till, but if there's some
No,
reasonable
but-
anticipation of TIF money.
no, I understand.
Right.
Like you don't necessarily have
There's no use
Yeah,
planning now.
right now
If-
it's-
if
it's
TIF
too
money is
early
5
in
years-
the
if TIF money is
procedure,
5 months
or-
off, 5 years off.
process. Yeah.
You know, if there's no expectation, there's 0 TIF money now, there's no expectation we're gonna have TIF money in the short term.
Yeah.
Why plan?
Okay. Well, great. That shortens that conversation
Because the
so.
land was gonna be.
No, I'm saying buying, I'm saying planning the improvements if you have no TIF money. It's gonna be funded by TIF
We
money.
can bank. the
We get
land.
0 TIF money right now,
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, I think it's just collecting ideas. So, there was a grant. I don't know the details of it, but Connor Quick submitted a grant.
I think
Hmm.
oh, maybe it's time.
Yeah,
Talk about
so that kind of money, but I don't think the town's ready to put up money for it.
Yeah.
Ron,
Well,
you had new
the article
business?
still says funded by
Um,
TIF money, so we haven't.
I just have a
We have
Oh,
a
you
couple
have
of
more
money.
thing. Yeah, one more
we
thing.
have to pay for it.
We haven't got any TIF money, so.
No, that's fine.
Exactly. So
Do we
we're
have
not gonna be
some?
funding, unless the rec department has money to put up some playgrounds or something.
Future work session, things to work on. We're looking at site plan review regulations. We last updated in 2022. Josh is going to be spearheading most of it as he has for the other ones. That's also match a lot of our subdivision regulations as far as like construction management and those types of updates. There was some discussion about re-looking at, I don't know if the correct language is the regulatory audit or something, to review the conservation subdivision zoning ordinance as well as our subdivision regulations about either like re-looking at it, because with ones that have been coming through, I know we're going to have more in the future. Other communities have, this also kind of stems from like the HOP grants. A lot of or the housing grants have come down from the state. Some people have done regulatory reviews of their zoning ordinance and maybe have done another view of way of planning, like a village concept or something like that. So I know there was a little bit of discussion of like how can we maybe firm up our regulations more. So I wanted to see if there was an appetite of the board considering that, like maybe trying to get a consultant or having our engineer look at it. I don't know if that's something we don't have to discuss it tonight either, just something to
What are
mull
we trying
over.
to solve though? What's the problem? What's the thing we're trying to solve? What's the issue we're trying to solve?
A lot of problems.
It seemed
I don't know.
to me, with one of our applicants, there was what it said in the subdivision and then what it didn't say in the conservation subdivision about backlots and
Yeah,
stuff. And
it was big, a lot of that.
yeah,
New Boston, Hampshire doesn't allow backlots in conservation subdivision. It's forbidden in their regulations, for example.
Well, but now,
something to consider.
now
I
we
can't
won't
believe
either.
there's-
Well, existing lots, they can. Talk about the cutoff date where you can do back lots anymore. It's in zone.
Well, but if you're gonna take an existing lot and subdivide, you can't create back lots. That's our new rule.
Right.
So you can't create back lots. So, that's effectively going away.
Right.
But I think that was an example. I wonder if there's ones we haven't thought of yet.
And there could be ones that you haven't thought of, or, I don't know. I just thought I'd bring it up because I know there was
I guess.
a lot of
the
discussion on recent things, like even,
Cluster one probably. would
or even
fall
one
under
that we recently, or that y'all recently approved, where there were 2 lots separated out from
Oh, yeah.
conservation subdivision, like,
Yeah, but that was ZBA. They, at the end of the day, we couldn't do anything about it. ZBA approved it.
right.
So,
But that's also where, like, if you do the regulatory audit about the zoning and the subdivision regulations, it could catch those things. Like, you could say, like, what projects that have been done the last 10 years and what issues you have found as a board with it. How is there a better way to
well, I think
strengthen them,
we're
change
trying
them?
to.
I'm not sure what the
I think we're
right
being more
approach
aggressive.
would be.
We have plans to be more aggressive on the yield plan.
Okay.
And I think that's a good first step. I think we've been lax on the yield plan. We have stronger language. And I think if we spend more time on the yield, we kind of just, rubber stamp the yield plan. And I think that's been a mistake. And I think if we get aggressive about really looking at the yield plan and really making them show that, that's a realistic yield plan, I think that'll reduce, a lot of these. The problem with the conservation subdivision, it's cheaper for the developers, so they always want to do it. And it pushes all the development in one place. It's very visible to the public. So even though it's a good concept, it's generally not well received. It's the developer's preferred, choice because they don't have to do much infrastructure. It's cheaper. And the residents don't like it because it consolidates all at once. It lacks the rural character. But I think it's a good thing to do. It's just that, we need to be more aggressive on the yield plan. As a starter, I think maybe we want to do more later on, but I think we can get a lot accomplished with that. That's my personal opinion.
I still wonder if there are things we haven't considered yet. That
And there
a
could be
professional
other
might-
ways of development that we haven't considered.
And Josh, if you have any ideas on this, because you deal with other towns and their regulations, right? So-
Yeah, I think the yield plan is a significant issue. And other towns do the same thing. There's rubber stamp it.
Yeah.
And I think if that can be strengthened in making the applicant put together a realistic yield plan that is constructible, and that is cost effective.
Yep.
I
Well,
think
we
that
got
would
the new
certainly-
regulation that helps that. And then I think there was a court decision said it had to be feasible and realistic. And the court stressed those 2 things.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Get the citing, I think it might have been Amherst, case in Amherst. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that'd be a
Be
good
tough
first
on
step.
that. If they just take a thing, there was one example I looked at, the low point was 380 feet and the high point was 650 feet. Of course, they just flattened it out and just dropped all these rectangles on top of that. It says, how are you gonna get a 7% road
Yeah, I mean,
or a
So it sounds
10%
like
driveway?
What I'm hearing is that you 2 are fine with how things are going. Do you mind if?
I'm not, but I think we've made some changes that'll help.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
on the yield
Okay.
plan,
And
I
I
think.
think, to me, I want to see how that pans out. That may satisfy us, may not, but it might.
Okay.
I think if we get aggressive on the yield plan, don't allow backlots, I think that'll go a long way. And the question is it enough? And I don't think we know that right now. So
Okay.
I think that, we gotta respect property rights too. People have a right to develop their properties. So we gotta strike the balance. And I think we've taken a step, hearing the public comments we've got, I think we're taking a step in responding to that. And I think we see where it goes. That'd be where I want to see where we end up with what we've done.
20,000 square foot conservation lots. Most towns are 30,000. They got that from the DES, I think.
And I wouldn't be adverse looking at that. 3,000 is pretty tight.
Yes. Get to 4,000 and then the
You-
well
we're at-
intruding on
we're at 80
everybody
We're at
else.
80,000, and you bring it down to 20,000?
Yeah,
That's a big reduction.
So maybe we'll look at that. Everybody think that might be something to look
The
at.
pushback to that, remember, the smaller pushes it out of the sensitive areas. So more density in the good areas, saving the areas you want to, more sensitive areas.
Right,
That's the other side of the equation.
yeah.
I like that.
So we'll look into other communities.
You had new business?
Yeah, just real quick, next Wednesday, we're having, Bob knows, he's on the committee. We had a committee on class 6 public, private roads.
I remember.
Oh, yeah, Bobby will get an invite. If not, I'll get it tomorrow.
I was gonna say, wow.
It's gonna be Wednesday.
I must have
He
missed
just
that.
told me just now, so I have not
We're
sent
gonna
out the
review
invite into anybody except for
We're
him
gonna
to put
review
on
the
the
final
calendar.
draft next Wednesday, the final draft. It's been reviewed by the attorneys. So it has a number of changes. Wanted to brief you real quick of some of the significant ones. Before we had, volume as an increase to get to category 3, it's gonna be an increase in square footage now. It's not gonna be volume. Remember that one with the roof?
Oh, yeah, that was
Right,
crazy.
right.
So that, we didn't like that. We have, gonna have a red list now. Red list of roads or sections of roads where building permits will not be issued. So they, even with a 10%, no build. So that's a pretty significant change.
That's good.
And we've also added language to make it easy for the road associations to get involved. If the road associations get involved, they can go beyond the CO issue. So before, the work had to be done before the CO was issued.
Yeah, right.
And depending on the season and a variety of other things, that was problematic before. But if you give it to road associations that maybe are not the most, they're volunteer organizations like us, they're not the most efficient all the time, a little slower perhaps, giving them a little more time, I think was we all like that idea. There's some concerns about how do we hold them accountable and what happens, and the lawyer was okay with that, and some bonding arrangements or some security arrangements are going to be done, make sure that happens. But Vanessa did a checklist, so that's going to be good. And that's pretty much it, I think. That's the high spots. I think the committee did some good work. I think it'll be good. It'll be an improvement. Obviously, we're going to submit to the selectmen, and they have the final say of any changes or approval. But the final review will be this coming Wednesday.
Great,
Okay.
great.
The
We'll look forward
27th?
to seeing that.
27th at what time, Bob?
8 o'clock.
Right here?
It will
No,
be in
it's-
the.
it's the committee only. You don't have to come.
Which one?
It's a committee only. It's a subcommittee,
Oh,
so
okay.
you don't have to come.
Okay, good. Well, no, I'm interested in those private roads. I really am.
I would suggest, in the interest of your time, don't come, because it'll be presented here anyway.
Okay, good.
So, once we get, the committee gets done, it'll be presented here
All right.
then it'll get presented to the selectmen. So it'll be summarized here.
Okay.
I understand as part of this, we're gonna put a complete list of roads out, not just private and class 6 that are found, because we took it out of our regulations. And it was an old update. Didn't contain any of the subdivision. The highway department. Get that list. It's just publish it just put it on the website. That is all.
I've been pushing a year.
I had a tough time
You can
getting,
do
I had a
one,
tough time
but
getting the red list. believe
I
me.
will
So
ask Aaron
This is the
again.
final meeting, and to wrap up,
Ready yet?
add everybody in the back,
Current
say thanks for your work,
list of all
move
the,
on.
Okay.
town roads and we
That's it.
I have.
I'll make a
I
motion
should
to
have
adjourn.
this, But probably.
I'll
2 or 3
second that
years.
motion.
No,
Donna seconded it.
Oh, wait, who first it?
I did.
Thanks.
I second it.
And Donna. All right.
All in favor?
Happy
Roll
July.
call.
Mr. Chair,
Jesse, your eye.
Al and I.
All right,
And we're done.
8:40, not too bad.